Every 4 years, the football world descends into the exact same argument. Fans tear each other apart over who is the absolute greatest player in World Cup history. The problem with these debates is that they rely on pure emotion and nostalgia. People try to compare a striker from the 1960s with a modern midfielder by putting their best highlight reels side by side, ignoring completely different rules, pitch conditions, and tactical systems. This flowchart breaks down what actually creates a legend. Notice how it moves from a specific tactical input directly into an extreme trade-off before resulting in systemic dominance. True World Cup immortality requires a player to push a specific tactical variable to its absolute limit. To make sense of this, we will evaluate the 5 greatest players in history, not by ranking them, but as distinct strategic blueprints for dominance. To figure out what greatness actually looks like, we have to abandon subjective nostalgia. We need to look objectively at the human and tactical costs required to dominate the sport's highest stage. In 1974, the World Cup was defined by the relentless, fluid movement of total football. Opposing teams attacked in coordinated swarms, constantly interchanging positions. Enter our number 5 player, Franz Beckenbauer. He represents the archetype of the tactical innovator. This chalkboard animation shows how he played the newly invented sweeper role. Watch how Beckenbauer intentionally drops behind his own traditional defensive line. By giving up ground, he drastically expands his field of vision, allowing him to orchestrate the entire match from deep. Because he sat so deep, he effectively neutralized the era's most fluid attacking systems. Opponents hit a structural wall they simply couldn't run past. Beckenbauer achieved immortality by paying a specific price. He traded the spotlight of individual goal scoring for the quiet, absolute power of systemic, defensive playmaking. Now we move to the thin air and intense heat of Mexico in 1986. Here we find our number 4, Diego Maradona, defining the archetype of the volatile solo carry. This pie chart illustrates the sheer statistical gravity of his tournament. Notice that massive 71% slice. That represents the portion of Argentina's total goals that Maradona either scored or directly assisted. He monopolized the ball to produce 5 goals and 5 assists. But look at the cost of that usage rate. To carry an entire nation's offense, he had to absorb upwards of 10 violent fouls every single match, far above the tournament average. Executing the ultimate solo carry job creates historical mythology. It also exacts an unsustainable physical and mental toll, virtually guaranteeing that a player's peak will burn out almost as fast as it catches fire. By the late 90s and early 2000s, international football had become incredibly compact. Defenses were organized to punish attackers physically and completely deny them space in the final third. This incredibly hostile environment required our number 3, Ronaldo Nazario, the physical phenom. This biomechanical animation demonstrates Ronaldo's specific input. He generated massive rotational force and torque to accelerate instantly, using this explosive power to shatter tight defensive lines, racking up 15 total World Cup goals. That sheer explosive dominance is what allowed him to secure the ultimate redemption arc in 2002, completely erasing the trauma he endured in the 1998 World Cup final. But human tendons aren't built to withstand that level of tension. Generating unstoppable power through violent biomechanics causes severe physical deterioration, proving that the brightest athletic peaks carry the hardest physical limits. Fast forward to Qatar in 2022. Modern football relies on relentless, high-intensity pressing systems, where every player is expected to run constantly. Against that backdrop, we have our number 2, Lionel Messi, the late-stage maestro. This heat map tracks his movement during a match, and the contrast is stark. You can see vast areas of slow, low-intensity walking suddenly interrupted by sharp, high-speed vectors inside the penalty box. He literally walked the pitch to map defensive blind spots and save his legs for the final third. Look at the output relative to the distance covered. This extreme efficiency allowed him to dictate the entire offensive rhythm and win a World Cup at age 35. But mastering extreme energy conservation demands a massive systemic sacrifice. The other 10 players on the pitch have to run themselves to exhaustion, structurally compensating for their leader's defensive passivity. Finally, we have to return to the historical baseline to look at the player against whom every subsequent legend is measured. Our number one is Pelé, the ultimate archetype of the complete standard. His input was a flawless blend of elite playmaking intelligence and explosive physical finishing, sustaining that dual threat from the age of 17 all the way up to age 29. That level of absolute systemic versatility is why he remains the only player to ever secure 3 World Cup titles. Yet embodying the ultimate complete threat came with a brutal trade-off. Long before modern player protection laws existed, being the absolute best meant becoming the primary physical target for opposition violence. The traditional debate over who is the greatest is broken. It assumes there is only one correct way to achieve World Cup immortality. This 5-axis radar chart maps all of our archetypes simultaneously. Notice how these distinct color-coded shapes overlap, but ultimately cover completely different areas of greatness. If your lens for greatness values tactical innovation, your standard is Beckenbauer. If you prioritize the pure solo carry, your standard is Maradona. If you value resilience against adversity and peak physical output, you look to Ronaldo. When efficiency and longevity are the metric, Messi is your blueprint. And if you demand unmatched completeness across the board, Pelé remains untouchable. The next time a World Cup debate breaks out, stop arguing over who is objectively better. Look at the data, identify what you actually value, and start analyzing which of these 5 trade-offs represents your true pinnacle of the sport.